I want you to picture something with me for a second. And, close your eyes if you can, unless you're driving.
Oh, right.
Imagine you're standing in this huge open field. It's getting dark. It's a little cold. And you look up at this just endless sky, and you let it all go.
Mm-hmm.
The grief, the anger, everything you've been holding in. Now, usually that's the breakdown scene, right? The moment where the character has just, lost it.
Absolutely. That's the trope.
But what if we've been reading that all wrong? What if that act, crying into the sky, isn't about breaking, but about returning something?
It's such a powerful reframing of emotional release.
Yeah.
We see grief as this destructive thing to be contained.
Right.
But this source we're looking at today, it suggests something else, almost like hydraulics. If you keep the pressure inside, the whole thing just breaks.
But if you offer it up to something larger...
Like the sky, yeah. You're not breaking, you're distributing the weight so you can actually keep standing.
Distributing the weight. I love that. And that is the perfect way into the deep dive we are doing today.
Let's do it.
We are unpacking a manuscript, and honestly, it is one of the most evocative things I have read in a very long time. It's called Crying into the Sky, Learning to Soar Again by Gina M. Kalanog.
And it's creative nonfiction, a memoir.
Mm-hmm.
But it reads like a survival guide for the soul.
It really does. It's so raw, it's gritty, and it tackles some heavy things. I mean, deep familial trauma, real financial struggle, and just the absolute grind of reclaiming your self-worth.
Especially when everyone around you seems to be trying to strip it for parts.
Exactly.
And what struck me immediately about this text is its psychological weight. This isn't your standard glossy, I hit rock bottom and then I manifested a mansion kind of story.
No, not at all.
It is so much more nuanced. It's a study on the dissonance between how the world sees a person and how their own family sees them versus their internal reality.
That's it.
Kalanog really focuses on the mess and the magic, the transition from this silent struggle to soaring. But her definition of soaring is very different from what you might see online.
Right. It's not about the private jet. It is about peace of mind. So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the anatomy of resilience as she describes it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just looking at getting over it. We're looking at how you navigate betrayal from the people closest to you, your own family, and how you turn that pain into what she calls a quiet revenge.
And that idea of quiet revenge is fascinating, and we'll definitely get there. But to even understand why revenge is part of the story, you have to look at the injury first.
You have to understand the environment.
Exactly, the environments the author was living in.
Okay, let's go there. Let's unpack the noise. The author has this whole section called The Weight of Their Words, and she talks about this dynamic of criticism.
And it wasn't just, the occasional you messed up.
No, it was a constant barrage. She lists specific insults. You'll never make it. You're dreaming too big. But the one that just, it hit me right in the gut was the phrase, you're nothing.
You're nothing. That is a devastating phrase. It really acts as a fulcrum in the entire text. Psychologically, it's the ultimate negation of who you are.
It's not, you did something wrong.
No, it's saying your entire existence has no value. But what's so fascinating is how Kalanog describes her reaction to this chronic abuse.
Yeah.
She doesn't describe it as a fresh wound every single time. She talks about a process of desensitization. She uses this analogy that the insults became like, background noise.
Or traffic or bad weather. I found that so haunting. Always there, always cold.
It's like living next to a train line.
Exactly. At first it wakes you up, but eventually you sleep through it, but your body still registers it.
Right. The vibration is still there. Your cortisol is still spiked, even if you don't notice the horns honking anymore.
She says she carried their comments like bruises you couldn't see, silent but sore every time I moved.
Wow. And that distinction she makes between strangers and family is so crucial here.
It is.
The text says, if a stranger on the subway yells, you're nothing, you can just brush it off. You chalk it up to them having a bad day or whatever.
Right. It's not about you.
But when your family says it, she writes that it roots deeper. Because these are the people who are supposed to be your first mirrors. And when that mirror is distorted from the start, your whole foundational understanding of who you are just gets warped.
And here's where it gets really, incredibly twisted. She talks about the logic her family used for all this doubt.
It wasn't just random cruelty.
No, it was framed as a favor.
The favor of doubt.
Yeah.
Yes. This is a classic, though deeply toxic, psychological mechanism. They convince themselves that breaking her early is a form of mercy.
Like, I'm telling you you're nothing, so you don't get your hopes up and get hurt by the world later.
Exactly. It's protectionism that has just gone completely wrong. They wrap their abuse in the packaging of love.
Which makes it almost impossible to fight back against, because if you do, you're rejecting their love.
You're ungrateful.
Yeah. And Kavanagh captures that feeling with this just visceral imagery. She writes that receiving that kind of love is like walking barefoot through broken glass just to sit at a table where no one saves you a seat.
That image just stops you in your tracks. I mean, think about the effort in that.
Yeah.
Walking barefoot on glass.
Horrifying.
You are mutilating yourself, enduring this awful pain. And for what? To sit at a table where you are at best ignored, it just speaks to that deep, primal human need for belonging.
We will hurt ourselves just to be near the people we think are supposed to want us.
Even when they clearly don't.
So you have this internal world where she's walking on glass, dealing with this constant traffic of insults, but then there's the external world, the perception versus the reality.
This is a huge theme in the book, the invisible struggle. The disconnect is just, it's stark. Kavanagh writes that people saw her smile and just assumed ease.
They saw her walking and missed the limp.
That's it. It's a classic example of high-functioning distress. In our culture, we tend to equate functionality with happiness.
Totally. If you show up, if you're polite, you must be fine.
Right. But the reality she describes behind that curtain is incredibly gritty.
Oh, it's visceral. She details the specific financial hardships happening behind that smile. And we aren't talking about, oh, I can't afford the latest phone.
No, this is survival level stuff.
This is scraping together coins, skipping meals, paying bills late, and just juggling creditors. She talks about these quiet prayers just to get through the week.
But because she wasn't broadcasting it, because she wasn't falling apart in public, the narrative around her became that she was fine.
Or even privileged.
And that leads to the accusation of selfishness, which is just one of the cruelest parts of this entire story.
It is.
She describes being called selfish for not giving to others, presumably these same family members, even when she was, as she puts it, bleeding dry.
That part made me so angry for her. Being judged for not bleeding on command.
Yeah.
It's like you're drowning, you're treading water with every ounce of strength you have, and someone on the shore is yelling at you for not tossing them a life vest.
It creates this villain narrative. She feels like she was cast as the bad guy in a story she never even wrote.
Which is so isolating.
Profoundly. You're struggling in silence, but that silence gets weaponized against you. They interpret it as you withholding something. They think you're hoarding resources that you don't even have.
And speaking of weaponizing things, let's shift to that section of the manuscript called Knives and Names. This is where we get into the really intimate betrayal. We're not just talking about general doubt anymore. We are talking about gaslighting and violation of boundaries.
This section really gets into the power dynamics within that family structure.
It does.
The text describes these moments where she tried to set boundaries. You know, simple things about her space, her belongings, her emotional limits.
And the response wasn't, oh, okay, I get it.
No. The response was, you're being dramatic or you're overreacting.
It's just a thing. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? I think we've all heard a version of that before. It's that complete refusal to acknowledge that your feelings are real.
It is the total invalidation of your emotional reality. By labeling her dramatic or the bad one for speaking up, they effectively silence her. It teaches you that your own instincts are wrong.
And she has this painful realization in the text. Her feelings weren't considered real, only her usefulness was valued.
That phrase she uses, disposable utility, that one hit hard.
It's so good. Useful when they want something, disposable when you speak.
It just paints this picture of a relationship that is entirely transactional, but only in one direction.
Right, and she describes this pattern where family would leave when she challenged them, just walk away, silent treatment, and then come back later with absolutely no apology.
It's that cycle of intermittent reinforcement, but in a totally negative way. They come back expecting everything to be normal.
Expecting her to just fall back into the role of the provider, the helper.
The quiet one. And the text describes the confusion that causes. It makes you question your own sanity. You start thinking, am I crazy? Did I overreact?
Because everyone else is acting like nothing happened.
Exactly. It's a way of erasing the conflict without ever resolving it.
So let's just recap here. You're being told you're nothing. You're being used. You're being gaslit. And you're broke. I mean, how do you not just completely break down?
Yeah, how do you pivot?
Because she clearly did. She calls this point the voice in the dark.
And this is the real turning point of the deep dive and, the turning point of her life. Despite what she calls the stone in her chest.
That heavy, cold weight.
Yeah. She identifies this counterforce, a small, tired voice that just said, I can.
I love where she says this resilience actually lived. It wasn't, some mantra she shouted in the mirror.
No.
It was whispered at night, written in the margins of notebooks no one would read. It's such a private, almost secret resilience.
It had to be secret. If she had broadcasted, if she had told them, I'm going to succeed, the traffic of criticism just would have ramped up to drown her out.
They would have doubled down.
Oh, absolutely. So she went underground. The text highlights this theme of building alone or working in the dark. While everyone else was rolling their eyes at her, she was studying, practicing, building her skills in the shadows.
It's the idea that the work you do when nobody's watching is what actually saves you.
It is.
And there's this shift she describes where she finally stopped looking for their approval. She realized her story was never written in their words.
It was written in her choices, those early mornings, those late nights.
That is the shift from external to internal validation. As long as she needed them to say, you're good, she was trapped.
Once she realized that You're Nothing was just a story they told themselves to feel better and not a fact about her, she was free.
Free to write her own story.
And that new story leads us right to this concept of quiet revenge.
Okay, quiet revenge. When I first saw that, I thought, okay, here we go. Is she going to buy the family home and kick them all out?
A real Count of Monte Cristo situation.
Right. But she explicitly states it is not that. She says it's not a look at me now speech. It's not a loud confrontation.
No, it's so much more subtle. And I would argue far more effective. She defines the revenge as succeeds anyway, loves anyway.
Loves anyway. That's the kicker. That is the plot twist.
It really is. The revenge isn't about destruction. It's about endurance and distinctness. It's about surviving the storm without, as she puts it, raining on anyone else.
She stops the domino effect with herself.
She does. She refuses to pass that trauma along.
And there is this huge reversal of fortune described in the text. The author points out this irony. The very people who said, you're not smart enough or you're nothing.
They're the same people who now come to her for help.
Exactly. They are walking on pavement she helped lay.
It's such a powerful image. The ones who said she couldn't even walk the road are now using the road she built. And this brings up a huge question. What do you do?
What do you do when the people who bet against you suddenly need you? And most of us, if we're being honest, we'd want to say, I told you so.
Or just slam the door. Make them feel small for a change.
Right. But Kalinaug takes the high ground in a way that is almost, frustratingly noble. She keeps helping them.
And she says she does it not because she forgot the pain, but because, and I love this quote, I am not them.
I am not them. That is the ultimate victory.
It is. If she had turned cold, if she had withheld help, she would have become just like the people who hurt her. She would have let their behavior define her character.
But instead, she redefines the relationship on her terms.
Yes. By continuing to give, but doing it from a place of power, not obligation, she establishes her autonomy. She's proving, mostly to herself, that her nature is generous, regardless of her environment.
She's no longer the victim looking for approval. She is the benefactor offering grace. It just shifts the power completely.
Exactly. The text mentions she doesn't need their applause anymore. She's become the spark, the reason, and the proof, all by herself.
She became the person she needed when she was younger. So what does this all mean for us? I mean, we've looked at the trauma, the silence, the work in the dark, the quiet revenge.
It really does feel like a manual for alchemy, turning lead into gold.
Or turning insults into fuel.
It is. And I think the key takeaway is right there in the title. To cry into the sky is not to break, but to return. Healing comes from lifting that grief upward, acknowledging it, and then getting back to the work. It's about not letting that narrative of you're nothing take root in your own mind.
Even when it's coming from the people who are supposed to know you best, it's a reminder that you can be surrounded by people who don't see you, and you can still see yourself.
You can walk through that broken glass and still decide to heal your own feet.
You don't have to stay at that table. Or if you do stay, you build your own chair.
Before we wrap up, there is one last provocative thought I want to leave with you. It comes from the very end of the text about boundaries and worth. Kalinaug suggests that respect isn't something you earn by going quiet or by suffering in silence. She writes that respect is something that should have been there from the beginning.
That's a heavy realization. It totally flips the script on earning your place.
It does. And it asks you, the listener, to consider, in your own life, are you mistaking your silence for safety?
Wow.
Are you keeping quiet just to keep the peace, when that silence might actually be the very thing keeping you from being, well, from being more?
Because the peace you buy with your own silence is usually too expensive.
You end up paying for it with your own identity.
That is something I am definitely going to be thinking about for a long time. Are we mistaking silence for safety? Phew. That's the kind of question that keeps you up at night, but, in a good way.
Indeed. It's the question that starts the change.
Well, on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Gina Kalinok's story of grit and grace and quiet revenge. It's a powerful reminder that we get to write our own stories, no matter what the critics say. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.